all for joining us at Warren and Will's Wild Wine Review. I believe this may be our 15th review. I'm Warren.
Accurate.
I've had a couple thousand reviews on Vivino, so I've had a little bit of wine.
I'm Will. I don't have quite that many. I think I'm in the hundreds. I'm going to have to go back and look. I've been updating my Vivino. But a lot of the wines that I have had with Warren.
And of course, you are certified.
Certified sommelier, yeah.
Which I am not.
You probably could be.
I've had people tell me that it wouldn't be much trouble.
No, it wouldn't.
To at least get through the first step.
Introductory, you would pass in a breeze. Certified, I don't think would. Honestly, the only thing you probably have to do is the same thing as I did, which was learn the table service part. But that's just how to open a bottle at the table and properly present it.
Which is no problem.
No, not at all.
The number of times I've said, I'm sorry, you're having a hard time.
Can I help you with that? Yep.
Could I please take over to the servers?
Yep.
And in some places they won't let me because it's illegal.
It's illegal, yeah.
But in other places they don't know it, and
Like
they're just relieved as hell to not be the one to have to do it. And sometimes I'll bring in a bottle from like the 90s, and they're like, "That's a really old cork. Would you please be the one to open this?" Because they don't want to break the cork and ruin the bottle. So.
Right.
But at any rate, so this is only our second bottle that we haven't had before. I've never had this, nor has Will.
Yeah.
I kind of picked it up by accident. I bought some of the Syrahs from this producer, which I really enjoyed, and this somehow got in there. I didn't mean to buy this white, and
I'm very pleased that it did.
I was
very
happy with the 2 or 3 bottles of red that I had, which I'm not normally from Argentinian wines. So we can start on this one. And let me pour it. As you can see, it's very white. Well, yellow, really.
Yeah, Semillion has kind of a honey. Can have kind of a honey.
I'm not sure I've ever had this grape.
Well, you did it when we had the Sauterne, but it wasn't a straight Semillion. It was a blend.
But
this is a full varietal,
and it's not sweet. I don't think.
It shouldn't be. Let me look at the one. No, 13.5. No, this isn't going to be sweet.
So let me start with giving you the usual information that I give every week. This is El Enemigo Semillion, 2018. Vivino gives it 4.1 stars out of 5 with 388 reviews, and the average price is only $28.99. Now, it's made in Mendoza, Argentina. Most of the information I found was not on their website. The website's pictures and very little in the way of words. They have 4 vineyards. There's a picture of 4 different places with plants about that tall.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, if you're trying to convince me about how beautiful, I would use a picture when there's grapes.
Yeah.
But, that's just me. It was listed on the 23rd on the World's Best Wineries website.
Oh.
Note, I don't believe there's any American ones on that. So when they say world, they mean not America. Which I find a little weird, but
they're probably worried that it would stack the deck against foreign wineries because there's so many in America.
It is founded. This winery was founded by Alejandro Vidgil and Adriana Catina. You may recognize the last name. Adriana's father is the legendary Nicholas Catina of Catina Zapata fame.
Yes.
So
if you've had Argentinian wine, you've probably had a Catina. They have so many, spanning the gamut from lower ends, $20, $30 bottles all the way up to, I don't know where it stops, somewhere in the hundreds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I've only ever had, until this vineyard came along, I'd only ever had one vineyard's wines that I liked from Argentina, and that was her dad's. Now, they have wines from like $15 up to about $900, and I really enjoyed all of the ones over $100 and almost none of the ones under. Now, mind you, that was a blind tasting, so I had my notes later and found out what they cost. It wasn't I looked at the expensive one and goes, these are the only good ones. That didn't happen. Yeah. Now, Alejandro, I always have problems with things that are Spanish because J's are H's, and I didn't take Spanish. Holds a master's degree and a PhD from the University of Oxford in England. That's kind of a big deal.
That's awesome.
Yep. And let's see, Alejandro. Actually, I think I've got that backwards. I think that's Adriana.
Oh, who has a PhD.
And Alexandro both of them worked for Zapata.
Okay.
So,
and you said they were childhood friends.
They were childhood friends. Now, the interesting thing for me is their vineyards. They have 4 vineyards. They're 4,800 feet above sea level.
Oh, yeah.
That's really high.
I think the highest Mendoza gets is like 9,098. Maybe that might be Salta. The Argentinian wine growing regions are insane. They're like the high plains of Colorado, except you can grow grapes there.
I remember that.
Yeah.
You got some free time there.
Salta and Mendoza are insanely high above. Almost the Salta gets almost 2 miles.
Now the last little bit I'll give you, and then we'll be on to just tasting wine is they have techniques meld with old with new. Fashionable concrete eggs are used in conjunction with 100-year-old Alsatian oak.
Oh, okay.
Padres?
Oh, foudre.
Okay, shipped in from Italy before being re-toasted and reassembled, and then they have.
That's just the French name for wine barrels.
Tradition.
Yeah.
So
Alsatian, that's cool.
Yeah. So that's where we are with this, and so this is seen oak.
Yep.
Ooh.
And you can definitely smell it. I pick up a little bit of
a lot of melon. This smells
yeah,
like a Riesling.
Yeah. So Semillon usually has a lot of tropical honey characteristics. I'm picking up some of that honey, but I'm also picking up some vanilla figgy kind of oak characteristics. A little bit of Chardonnay if you're a
Very
Chardonnay fan.
like if you like Chardonnay.
No, I haven't tasted it yet.
It's a little less bold than a Chardonnay.
Yeah, the acidity is higher. But honestly, I would feel if I knew somebody liked an oaky Chardonnay that wasn't too heavy, I would definitely point them in this direction.
Oh, absolutely.
That's what because I can definitely picture this with like lobster, with shrimp, with any kind of buttery seafood dishes. Yeah. But Semillon's an interesting grape.
Oysters.
Yes,
a little bit of horseradish, and that'll really be nice with this.
Yep. No, and the nice thing about white wines that have seen oak is they're more protein friendly. Well, I mean, all wines are protein friendly, but you could not put you would have more trouble putting like a light Pinot Grigio or Sauvignon Blanc with like a heavy cream dish. This you could do with something seafood dish that had some cream in it.
You know, compared to the white Burgundies that I've had and the it's a lot lighter.
Oh, it is absolutely
and if you're like thinking Kendall Jackson,
right?
Or some of the other of their Chardonnays, they're bigger, a little more buttery. There's a little less butter here.
Yeah. No, and it's worth noting, Semillon is a grape that's native to Bordeaux, and it is less acidic than Sauvignon Blanc, but there are some structural similarities. It's got a more bracing acidity. There's even, I noticed, I picked up a very, very slight saline component of this, which I thought was kind of neat, because, I mean, Mendoza is nothing like Bordeaux, and yet some of those things are remaining native to the grape itself and not the conditions in which it's grown. Whereas Burgundy, cooler climate, and that's the thing about California Chardonnay versus Burgundian Chardonnay, is that Burgundian Chardonnay, much cooler climate, so you retain that acidity, and then they put it in oak, and so you get the buttery characteristics.
That was one of my first thoughts when I took that first sip and smelled the melon is Riesling. Colder climb, higher, that's why the 4,000.
Absolutely. Yep.
4,000 feet matters, are almost a mile up. They're twice as high as I am. By the way, if you hear some machinery sounds, we're having our 55 acre, well, not our whole 55 acres, it's hard to hay hardwoods.
Yes.
But we're having the fields hayed so we don't lose them. And the hay is being donated to a horse farm that is a 401(c)(3).
Oh, cool.
Yeah, they have.
Is that here in Floyd?
It's here in Floyd. They have. I wish I could remember their name because I'd like to tell you folks. But one of the things they do is they have people who are in rehab and that sort of thing come and ride their horses, and it kind of helps them.
That's awesome.
On the journey.
I think I may have heard of them. Are they out in Willis, like North Willis?
My granddaughter boards her horse.
Okay.
So we're donating this.
Sweet, that's awesome. That's really cool.
So you can hear it in the background. I'm sorry, folks. I didn't know they were coming. That's the thing about the hay. They're like, next time it's dry for 3 days, we'll come.
Hey, you live in Floyd and it's September. There's going to be tractor noises.
Yeah.
It could be worse. It could be my road. There's a tractor going up, at least one tractor going up and down my road every single day. Wakes me up in the morning, and then you hear it at night when they come home.
So we may want to pause a little here because I think they're actually leaving. They're coming down. The tractor's right here. Wow. Yeah, it's always wild with Warren and Will.
Yeah. It'd be really funny if people could see like a 360-degree panoramic.
Oh, I know. They'd be able to see this blue tractor with these whirring blades behind it, not taking the grass that's already been knocked down and picking it up. Because he did that, and then it rained, and that means that he had to redo it. Yeah. Because you got to believe it or not, you got to aerate your grass before you bale it.
Yeah.
And make sure it dries dry.
Now, if you don't, it rots, right?
It rots. Yeah. I mean, they've got a lot of horses. And my understanding is they're getting a little low on hay, so this might not have time to rot, which would make me very happy.
My understanding is that is that hay can catch on fire if it stays wet and warm.
You were talking to the wrong dude. I just gave you everything I know
Yeah,
about hay.
Ben Margulies, who used to work in Chateau, was telling me there was some kind of safety consider. I don't remember exactly what it was, but basically, if hay creates heat when
Hay catches on fire a lot.
it does
That
catch
I
on
do
fire a
know.
lot. Yeah,
I learned that this weekend when we were on vacation in the Emerald Isle. We went down to some little town, Newbern, I think, and
Newbern, yeah.
the governor's palace from back pre Revolutionary War caught on fire because they had been storing hay in the cellar, and the hay combusted and they lost it.
Yeah, no, hay can. I mean, it's not spontaneous, but it seems like spontaneous combustion. It can catch itself on fire without an external.
Okay,
heat
talking
source.
about hay's boring the crap out of me. We gotta stop. Back to the wine.
Yeah, that honey characteristic of Semillon is just like really prevalent here.
But it's not super sweet.
No, not at all.
It's kind of like a honey without the sweet.
Yeah, no, it's got a smell of like a honeycomb. If you've ever smelled a
I was
honeycomb.
surprised by the melon. I did not expect the melon in
Yeah, a
this
lot of
because
tropical fruit
everything
on
I read
Semillon.
about it when I went looking for info talked about it being like Chardonnay.
Right.
And Chardonnay doesn't usually smell like
It
melon.
is similar
But it
enough to
can,
Chardonnay
but
that I see but at the same time that acidity is just so uniquely Semillon. It's one of the things that makes it nice. Like one of the reasons you rarely, if ever, see a Chardonnay dessert wine is that Chardonnay is an early ripener and does not hold on to its acidity.
So it's hard to get enough
Yeah,
sugar.
but the Semillon has this bracing, just like Sauvignon Blanc has this bracing acidity. And one of the things that makes dessert wines keep for so long is that really, really high acidity. If you're making it out of the proper types of grapes.
Could they dry it on mats
Oh,
on
yeah.
the roof and get a Chardonnay that was sweet?
Well, the thing is it's not really it's not
It
drying.
doesn't lend itself.
It doesn't lend itself, and the acidity just a priori isn't as high. Like if you have a Chardonnay that hasn't been put through any kind of malolactic fermentation at all, the acidity is still generally lower than if you compared it to like a Riesling or a Sauvignon Blanc or something of that sort. Part of the reason that I think that they still put Chardonnay into oak is for longevity. Like if you want to hold on to something
you
for
got
longer.
a little bit of extra tannic structure, so that helps the wine age better and last longer in the bottle.
Absolutely, and that's one of the things about Chardonnay is it's such a chameleon. Like this Semillon, I guarantee you that even if it had been put through oak, it would still have that honey characteristic, and maybe even some of what we're calling the buttery characteristics might still be there. With Chardonnay, you basically have to introduce that through external means.
Right.
Which is one of the things that makes Chardonnay fun to play with if you're a winemaker. Is it's kind of plastic. You can sort of do whatever you want with it. You could take a batch of Chardonnay, divide it in half, put one half into oak and run it like a normal malolactic fermentation,
do the other half
and do the other half like
yeah.
Pinot Grigio,
Yeah.
and then put them side by side and have people guess like which year it was and surprise them all by telling them it's the exact same batch, exact same wine, just done differently. Yeah, that's what makes Chardonnay kind of fun.
And it's still opening up the nose. I mean, part of the reason, I know we're drinking whites. These are not white glasses, but white glasses.
These are perfectly good for white glasses.
Right, I agree. I was going to go into it. The thin, fluted ones don't really hold the nose.
No.
And it's the curve of this.
Yep.
You know, I hate the place we stayed this weekend. This week I was at the beach.
Yeah.
And it had big wine glasses, but they were all straight. So zoom, 3 minutes later, you don't have a nose. It's just gone. And this curve helps hold the nose.
These are basically universal glasses.
Yeah,
I
that's
think.
fine.
Yeah.
But I mean, these are the big ones. I don't have them.
Yeah.
You know, I remember I was somewhere with some of my wine buddies, and we were drinking, and I won't say where because that's one of my favorite restaurants. And they have the smaller versions of these glasses.
Yeah.
And we had a very nice wine, and she said, and I quote, "The wine is wonderful. The glasses make me sad." And I couldn't disagree.
Yeah, no, it is that way sometimes. I've been to places. I went to Fortunato back when they first opened, and they were doing the Italian thing of serving their red wine in jam jars because it's what Italian people do. And I was like, I understand why they're doing it, but it's destroying the experience.
Yes, don't do it
It's
for me.
one thing when you're having Uncle Carlo's wine that he made in the basement out of a jam jar. It's another when you're having $10, $11 glass of nice Barolo.
You know, one of the things that they do, and I've talked about this with John Boyer at
Wine
the Wine Lab, is they bring out the samples or a flight in a beaker.
Yeah.
Because, it's a lab.
Yep.
And I always tell them, without exception, don't bring me a beaker.
Right.
I don't want to drink even a 1 ounce pour out of
Right.
a beaker. I want to be able to capture the nose. I want to know what it tastes like out of this glass, because that beaker doesn't give you the same experience. And while it's kind of cool and hip,
Yep.
I'm not here for cool and hip. I'm here for good wine.
Now, here's one of the things that I would do when I worked at Wine Lab. I would pour the wines into a beaker, but I would bring them a glass.
Yeah.
The nice thing about
then
those
you
beakers,
get the little extra,
Yeah.
one extra shot at aerating the wine. I'll
Yeah.
take that.
well, and
I'll take
also
that.
those beakers are wonderful if you want to pour exactly an ounce and not have to worry about it. They've got the gradations right
That's
there
true,
on the
that's
glass,
true.
and so people would get the like, oh, cool, it's in a beaker, but also have a glass so I can pour it into it and
Because
not.
the first time
yeah.
they brought it to me, I looked up, and John, he's like, "You want glasses, don't you?"
Yep.
And I was like, "Yep." I didn't even have to say anything. He's like, "All
Right.
right." And the next thing I know,
Well, I mean, the thing is it does destroy being able to smell the wine,
Mhm.
because the beakers they're these
and
little.
for me, that's at least a quarter of the fun.
Oh,
is,
yeah.
is the nose.
Well, and also discerning flavors is mostly smell.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
the stuff
60%
aerating and going
of your
into your nasal
flavors
cavity. Yeah.
is given to you by your nose.
Yeah. And if you don't believe me, hold your nose and taste the wine and see how much flavor you pick up on. It drops drastically. Or try tasting wine when you've got a cold.
Yeah.
That's another one. Tasting them out of the beakers, you get some of the flavor, you get very little of the aroma.
Yeah.
And while I worked there, I thought it was a cool idea. I used to just start bringing all of my tables that asked for flights a glass to go with it, because then I at least felt better that they were getting the full experience of the wine.
If they knew the difference and cared.
And you know, if they
And anybody who knows the difference,
Oh, yeah.
usually cares. Not everybody.
if they got a flight without a glass, they're a lot more likely to order a glass of cab off the menu. If they got the flight with a glass, they were a lot more likely to order a glass from the flight, because they actually tasted it.
Yeah. So I want to remind you folks, we do now have a Patreon, so
Yes.
you can support us there. Our next wine we're actually going to do live to give people a taste of what it'll be like. If you get the Patreon, you'll be able to watch us do it live, and you'll get to see all the stuff that we edit out that people otherwise don't see. And we are now, Vivino has decided we were indeed worthy.
Yep.
So most of our links are not going to be to places like wine.com and
Yep.
other places we send to. They're going to be Vivino, because there we can get a percentage of each sale. And the thing is, wine.com is the top seller on
Right.
Vivino, so you'll still get the same prices in the same
Right.
places. It's just that we had an aggregator that we were using that, like, every time somebody clicked through to wine.com or someplace on one of our reviews or one of our blogs, we got like 8 cents.
Right.
So it wasn't much money, but it was something, so we were pushing it that way, so
Right.
that we would have that and would go through their links. But now that we've got ourselves an actual decent
Aggregator?
well, not aggregator, the word, god damn it, affiliate program with Vivino, we're going to go with that. And let
Yep.
me, if you aren't with Vivino, let me tell you, if you like wine, you really need to
Yes.
be. You get the best prices when you go to buy online, because what you have there are like 20 or 30 really big wine places
Yeah.
that know they're competing with wine.com
Yep.
and with Yanni's and a couple places
Yep.
like that have got pretty much everything, and the price there is often better than you can find it anywhere else.
Yeah.
Not always, not always. So
Their prices are
be
reasonable.
wise,
If,
look
if,
around.
if
Oh, yeah.
you look at Vivino and then just go on any kind of like Google and look up prices, it's usually equivalent to or less than. what
One
you're
of the
seeing
things
other
that
places.
people find amusing, but I understand how it happens, is at Vivino they give you an average price. Now what happens is when you rate a wine in Vivino, you can put in the price and where you bought it. And so
Right.
when enough people put in a price, they give an average price. So a lot of people are buying these things at other places. So the average Vivino price isn't the average price people paid on Vivino.
Right,
It's the average price across America that
Right.
Vivino users paid. So quite often, like this wine, the average price right now is $28.95, but
Yeah.
you can buy it for $25.99 on Vivino today. I don't know what it'll be when you see this in about 10
Right.
weeks from when we shoot it. Well, 6 weeks. 6
Yeah.
weeks. We're running about 6 weeks from when we shoot them to when they air. So that is a thing to be aware of. That I've been giving the price that you can get right now, but that doesn't mean anything in 6
Right.
weeks. So I stopped that. But I recommend Vivino. We've been vlogging Vivino since before they decided
You're the one that got me into Vivino.
Yeah.
It was you started using it in 2015. 2015, I want to say.
It's been about 8 years.
I want to
7
say
years,
in 2015 is when you at that point I had joined a wine club, and you talked me into getting Vivino. And at first I was just scanning wines and looking at reviews and stuff, and then I was like, there were definitely people that I started to follow. But I was noticing that people would just rate a wine with no review, or the review would be very uninformative. And I was like, well,
I liked it.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. And so I was like, well, I like writing wine reviews. I'm just going to do my usual. And it was really interesting. I didn't get a cult following or anything, but I noticed that there were certain people that really liked the way that I reviewed wine, and they started following me.
Your reviews are humorous.
Yeah,
I understand that.
Yeah, no, I try to throw in. They can't all be the funniest thing I've ever written, but if I have a wine that really charms me, or I really like, or that was just really interesting, or weird, horrible,
you can really write a funny review for a crappy wine.
Yes, you can.
It's really easy.
I feel bad though, because
I like this wine the way I like slamming my hand in the door of a car.
But the chances, unless the wine was.
And I'm not talking about this wine. This is actually
no.
As far as whites go, this is fine.
So where are you going to get this on, Vivino? Three? Okay.
I probably should give it more because I'm not the intended audience.
Right.
And so it's tough for me to review these.
Right.
Because I can go, okay, here's what I smell and here's what I taste, but it's not my jam. And so I feel bad that we're doing it, but people do seem to want some whites. And they're paying attention.
And you happen to have this one. He didn't go out and buy this. He had this in his cellar.
But I do have some other whites.
Mm-hmm. They're mostly Rieslings though, right?
Mm-mm.
Oh, no?
Oh, yeah, they're mostly Rieslings, but a couple that aren't.
Some Chardonnays?
You know what? I'd have to go look, man, because I don't really.
Yeah.
I know what I've got.
Right.
For reds.
Right.
Even though
and
there's
the whites don't
70
really
of them
you,
at this point. But the whites, I have so little interest that I pick them up so that, when I have a party, I'm like, okay, what do I got on hand for whites?
Yeah.
And then I can bring them in
open
it and have them there. And the thing is, nobody ever drinks the whites at a party. And here's why. It's not because your friends don't like it. It's because you gotta keep them on ice. You gotta keep them in the fridge, so they never even see them. They're over there with the beer.
You're right.
So the reds are all over here, and people are jumping on them.
That's a really good point. Actually, I never thought about that.
Yeah, I should probably. I should go get my chillers out of storage for the next party, so people can see the whites. Because the whites are always off in the corner.
Yep.
And there are people that go, I wish you'd had some whites. I'm like, God damn it, I try and tell it.
Right.
But you gotta tell everybody. And most people are like, dude, where's the beer? I don't care what you have for wine.
I was just thinking, they have signs in front of, if a dish is gluten-free and vegan, they'll be like, you can have a sign that just says white wine with an arrow down.
It's a good idea. It's a good idea. Because I always try to get good quality white wine.
Yeah.
Because I don't believe in serving bad wine.
Right.
You just don't. Now, it happens at every party I have because people bring wine.
Yeah.
And, many of them they just bought the wine because they like the label. They don't even drink wine, but they're coming to Warren's party, and Warren is a wine guy, so they bring me wine. That's nice.
Or they bring a wine that they tried once and thought was pretty good.
Yeah.
And they didn't really think too much. I mean, the thing about wine, and we've talked about this before, and I talk about it pretty much every time I talk about wine. If you're not into wine, and you're not born, nobody is born being into wine, but if you're not into it, wine can seem really overwhelming and confusing. So if you try a wine that you think, oh, that's pretty good, you might grab onto that like a drowning person grabs onto a piece of driftwood and be like, okay, well, at least I know I kind of like this one. So it's not that people have bad taste or whatever. It's just that, well, I tried that one and it was pretty good, and wine is so confusing. I'd much rather have something I know is pretty okay than, do a roll of the dice every time I buy something.
I mean, I got the Vivino because I realized that when I walked into a store, I could not pick a good wine to save my life. I had no clue. Everybody's notes say, this is a wonderful, outstanding Reserve.
Yeah.
And you find out these people don't even know what Reserve means, or they don't care,
Yep.
or they don't think you know, so they lie about it.
Or maybe it's one of two Reserves that they've had, and it was way better than the other one. So, therefore, it's the best Reserve they've ever had.
But it doesn't necessarily mean it's any good.
Exactly.
So that's one of the reasons I got the app, is it started helping me go, 3.2 stars, I don't need to drink this.
Yep.
You know, and then once I had it, then I started getting a little more comfortable, drinking lots of different wines, because I could feel like I could get this home and enjoy it. Because if I don't like a wine, I pour it out. I'm not drinking a wine I don't like. I don't need those calories.
Now, I do need to say, if there are any people who are in the like college or immediately post-college phase where you don't have a lot of money and you're trying to buy budget wines and you have the Vivino app,
That helps.
I do want to tell you that finding a wine that's rated up for like $8 to $10, it's rated 3.5, is not necessarily a bad thing, because what will happen is somebody who drinks more expensive wines might buy it on a whim and not find it up to their standards. It doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means they didn't. So just as Warner and I have said that there is rating deflation the more expensive the wine is, there is same thing kind of happens at the lower end to a certain extent. Always read the reviews, because if you kind of find a couple of 4-star reviews,
I hated this, too much butter and oak. You love butter and oak, well,
or if you find a couple of 4-star reviews written by somebody like me who's similarly on a budget, who's like, hey, you know, this is $10 bottle of wine, it's not going to set the world on fire, but it's pretty darn good for what it is. Yeah. That's the reason why Vivino is such a useful app. It's not just the number of reviews or the overall rating or even the price. It's the quality of the reviews that you see attached to it. And I learned that the hard way when I didn't read the reviews for 19 Crimes.
And speaking of reviews, and I remember I talked to you about that wine shop at the beach.
Yeah.
While I was at that beach.
Yes.
No.
Okay.
Again, it's calories.
Yeah, no, I know.
Off the line. And I just.
And it's also not your favorite.
Right. It's not something I do. And it's out of business. It was gone. I walked into a place, and there's a new one. They sell a lot of cheeses and other stuff. But I walked in, and up across the thing, they had Opus 1, Latessa.
Yeah.
Quintessa.
Yeah.
Camus. No, they didn't have
No,
Camus.
okay. Usually those are the holy Trinity.
They had Schaefer's Hillside Select.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, this is really promising. I know every one of your wines on the top shelf.
Right.
And he was like, oh, what's your favorite one? I'm like, it's funny because Opus 1 is far and away the most expensive, but it doesn't measure up to the Hillside at all. And he's like, nope, that one's spectacular.
Yeah.
And then over in just the regular stuff, they had a number of different Molly Dukers.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, somebody here knows wine.
Yeah.
And I knew that without my app, which I wouldn't have known back in, I would have known back in the day because of the Molly Duker.
Now you just have more experience.
But I asked him about Paul Hobbs. He didn't have anybody, knew who it was, so that was a good thing.
Yeah.
So I was happy to see that the guy who was bullshitting everybody, shouldn't have sworn that. I was happy to see the guy that was lying to everybody about his wines didn't last.
Right.
And somebody who has some very good wines did.
Yeah.
And that well priced. When I looked at the national price, I'd been to a shop on the other end of the island because basically, we were at Atlantic Beach and Emerald Isles down on one side. They have a very good shop, but it's quite expensive.
Yeah.
It's like an extra, I saw a $180 bottle of wine and they wanted $240 for it.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm pulling it up on Vivino and I can order it right now for $165 and I'll get my house when I get there. But I'm looking at it,
opportunity cost.
And had I not had Vivino, I know some of these wines. I'd have bought them.
Oh, yeah.
And I would have paid way too much because I know they were good wines and I love them. But I mean, like their best. Their best Amarone was for $110. It was a $50 Amarone.
Right.
And I understand they're at the beach. They got really high, but this place was at the beach too, and it was just little. You just had to get off the island and shoot up just a little bit. Into this case, I think I was in Beaufort.
Yeah, Beaufort. Yeah.
And his prices were dead on, or a little lower than national. So he had high.
A lot of that has to do with just knowing what the people who are coming there will pay.
Yeah.
And it might just be, he might just know that, like, for instance, I don't know the age range of people using Vivino, but I'm guessing, like, older people might not use it as much. And so if you come in and you're not really sure, like, what a wine should cost, be like, well, we really want a nice bottle and we like, such and such, and so, like, it seems a little expensive, but, it's cheaper than a restaurant or whatever.
I was really surprised. The one thing they were doing that I thought was just that when they had a lot of people in there, and they were tasting out of white, and they were using Corbin. And it was just pour, pull it out. Someone wanted it pour, and they're going back and forth between it. And I'm like, you got enough people here to empty that bottle.
Yeah.
It's a $19 bottle. There is zero reason.
There's no reason to use a Corbin.
The
only reason to use a Corbin is A, you have to know that you're going to empty that bottle within a certain time frame. Now that time frame could be like a week, maybe 2. And also, if you're traveling, like if you're a wine salesperson who has a large region like Southwest Virginia to cover, then you know that on Monday you're going to Blacksburg and Radford, and on Tuesday you're going out to Abingdon, and on Wednesday you're going to Roanoke, and so it's like, okay, that's when a core event is really useful. But if the bottle is under a certain amount wholesale, or
this bottle was selling for $18, so they couldn't have paid much more than $6 for it.
Yeah, no, there's no reason to core event a bottle. I mean, I get it, like it's a cool device, and it's that nice thing of like you're preserving the headspace and integrity. But honestly, if you're
white.
Yeah, if you're tasting out a bottle that's $8 to $10 wholesale, and the restaurant's going to be charging $20-$30 a bottle for it, even if you don't think you're going to empty it, just uncork the sucker and write it out at the end of the day.
She sold 3 bottles while she was doing the tasting. So the first bottle covered the one she opened for free. And the thing is, I watched her cork it. I watched her, put the needle in and take it out 4 times in 5 minutes.
You've completely invalidated the point. Sense. Yeah, you've left huge gaping holes in the cork. You're letting out the neutral gas and letting in the oxygen.
Now she was the frontline person. I ended up talking to the guy who owned the place, and he started in the wine industry in the distribution end. So he knows wines. I don't know. I don't know if his palate's any good. I don't know if he drinks good wines, but I know he knew good wines because he had a lot of them. I mean, even his mid-level wines were quite good. And the lower level wines that they were tasting out for the price had great QPRs. And that's quality per.
Yeah, quality price ratio.
Quality price ratio.
No, I mean the thing about a core event is that the other use for it is if you run a wine bar and you put the core event in that bottle and you don't take that needle out, you have a much longer lifespan.
Yep.
So if you have, say, you'd be crazy to do this, but people do crazy things all the time. You have a bottle that's $100 wholesale, and you're selling glasses for whatever,
at least $20 if it's 100 wholesale.
Well, I mean, the thing that's if you just want to make your cost back.
Right. Well, 6 of the
if you want to make
if you do 6, you do
if you want to make a profit, then you would sell it at like $250 divided by 5, so $50 a glass.
Yeah, and I think
there are crazier things.
The most I paid for a glass of wine was $47.
Right.
And that was, I think it was Opus 1 the first time I had it.
Yeah.
And I was just like, it's good.
Yeah.
It's
not $47 a glass. Good.
No, I mean $100 I'd be going, it's good. $50 I'd be the one. What are they thinking?
Yeah.
So it is what it is.
If you run a wine bar and
$50 I'd be really happy.
Right.
$100 I'd start thinking, what are you thinking?
You sink that needle into the cork and you draw. Now, also remember that once you get past about the halfway point on a bottle with a core event, you're entering into dicey territory, because the thing is, even with the neutral gas, you are creating this partial vacuum that is actually drawing those volatiles out of the wine.
Right.
So even though the wine isn't aging, it's actually losing flavor. So it will taste stale without being oxidized the further you go down. What you should do after this point is, and this is why core eventing expensive bottles is always problematic, is just open the bottle and try to pour off the last 2 glasses.
If you got the last 2 glasses, what do we have by the glass? Well, we got this other thing that's really interesting, and you can have it for $2 more than the one you were going to get, because we already made our profit. So you're going to get a $15 glass, but for $17, I can give you this one that normally we only do under Corvin because we just popped it today.
Or if you're really good, what you do is when you have it about halfway down and you've got a couple at the bar and they've had like a glass or 2 and they're feeling good and they're lubricated, and they have enough money and they buy the 2 glasses, you uncork it, you pour them 2 glasses, they like it so much they buy a full bottle to have there.
Your best customer comes in, oh, hey, we'd like to give you a free glass because you already made your money back. And they're very happy. Like, ooh, that's a nice glass you just gave me. Makes them very happy. And then they order, now they've each had a glass before they order. Trust me, after a glass, people order better than before a glass.
Especially if they feel really well taken care of.
Yeah, exactly. And so those are the things that you can do. Here we are again, telling the stores how to do it. But the thing is, the customers know when they feel, when a thing happens that makes them go, oh, I want to reward you.
I've been on both sides of the curtain, and it is really fun if you're a bartender or a server working in a restaurant and somebody you really like comes in, you want to give them a special surprise, and you happen to have something. It is fun. You feel in a position of mild power, not over the customer, but in a position of power to give the customer something. Yeah, exactly.
I always feel touched when I walk in, and it happens to me a lot.
Oh, yeah.
You know, people are like, oh, I want you to try this.
Well, because you know wine, they want your opinion, and they also like you, so they want to give you a glass of something.
And that's why it happens.
Well, and they also know you're going to be completely honest with them.
Yep.
You'll tell them exactly what you
Because,
what
you know, like, there's a wine that everybody seems to love, La Quintessa.
Yeah.
I don't like it very much.
Right.
You know, it's a little too funky for me.
Yeah.
And it's a $270 bottle of wine that I think should be about $50.
Right.
Because there's nothing in there that makes it on the level of several of the wines we've already reviewed. And the wine we're going to do after this one is Vinge's Ashbone, which buries it at $100 less. I mean, buries it. It isn't even close.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting to watch when a wine becomes a phenomenon. I call a figment of its own imagination.
Yes, yes.
The overhyped band, the movie that everyone says is great, and you watch, and you're like, I mean, it's fine. It's not. I didn't hate it, but I don't. You know, like for instance, I watched Gravity long after it came out, and I thought it was fun. It was kind of like a roller coaster.
But if you know anything about physics, it
was
like,
oh no, it was silly.
You wouldn't float away. That doesn't happen like that.
But it was fun. I was along for the ride. And I was talking with some friends of mine. I was like, I don't get the hate it got. And they're like, well, the hate it got was that it was overhyped, and you watched it years after the hype, and you missed the whole hype train. I was like, that's a really good argument for never watching a movie while it's being hyped.
Their other problem was they were pushing how realistic it was.
Right.
And then they had that huge scene where he's like, you gotta let go of me.
Right.
You know, no, she
No,
doesn't.
she doesn't.
That's not in any way pulling her anywhere.
Nope.
These guys they're both they're going at the same speed as the thing that they're with.
Yep.
And that's not going to change. So
nope.
letting go of him actually wouldn't have done anything. He'd have hung there anyway.
Right.
But it was just stupid.
If you want to see a good, as far as these things go, a movie with a good science behind it, 2001: A Space Odyssey is still basically unparalleled.
Yeah, although I will say that we brought my daughter to see it when she was 16, and she was like, that was the most boring thing I've ever watched in my life. So it doesn't
hold up.
It doesn't hold up to people who have seen a lot of cut.
Right.
Flash cut. There's none of that. So.
No. I was talking just in terms of the overall accuracy. I liked it as a kid.
Cool.
I liked it.
Although what cracks me up is they thought anybody was going to understand what was happening.
Oh yeah, no,
because I read
completely unintelligible.
I read the wiki. You know, I watched it and. You know, I watched it as a kid, and I remember loving it, but not knowing what the hell was going on.
Right.
Watch it as an adult, and I'm like, okay, still don't know what's going on. Then I read the wiki, and I'm like, okay, I can see it. But but you got Kubrick going, what was so obvious that I was sure everybody would know, and I'm like, you are a pompous word I'm not going to use now, because there's no chance anyone could have known what was going on without that wiki read or without reading the book by Arthur C. Clarke, which was really a novelization.
Well, and the thing is that watching it as a kid in some ways was an advantage because the parts were incomprehensible when you're a kid. You're just like, oh, it's fine. Mm-hmm. You know, you write it off.
Hey, I didn't know what was going on Gilligan's Island last week. Why would I know what's going on here?
Exactly. But you're just along for the fun, and it's fun, and you gotta... And you know, Hal's not evil, but he's scary, and so you're kind of like, oh gosh, what's the weird computer gonna do? And so it's like, it's tense, and you're into it for the characters.
What
and
happened to the monkeys? Where'd the monkeys go? Why aren't they coming back? I want to see the monkeys!
I thought this was going to be Planet of the Apes. Yeah.
Oh, God. So, getting off the subject, first movies that I went to was a double feature. The Jungle Book, and somebody had a sense of humor, followed by Escape of the Planet of the Apes. So this 5 or 6-year-old little boy loved the Jungle Book.
Yeah.
And the Escape of the Planet of the Apes scared the living crap out of me. I couldn't look at a monkey again without worrying that they were going to come out with a machine gun or something until I was like 15.
They should have done Lion King after Return to
hadn't been done yet.
No, I know. But I was just thinking,
we're talking 1970.
Lion King has one of the most benevolent depictions of a monkey ever, with the wise
Empanada. All right, well, the tracker's getting close.
Yeah.
Our time is up.
Yes. Should we go ahead and table the discussion, as it were?
Yes, we probably should. I wish this guy would go just a little further away so you can hear us say goodbye.
Right.
I am really sorry about this noise. Did not know it was going to be here.
This is Floyd for you.
And he was in a way back 40 when he started, so we didn't. I thought I have so much property. I really didn't think he could get here today.
Yeah.
I figured it would be tomorrow. So my apologies.
You got the true Floyd experience.
You did, so thank you very much for being with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Check out, follow us on Facebook.
Follow
Twitter.
us both on Vivino.
follow both of us on Vivino. Join our Patreon if you want to see these live, so you can see the stuff we edit out, because a bunch of this didn't make it. And, it'll be fun. And, well, I can tell you that we're going to do one live in a couple of minutes, but that won't help you any because this is 6 weeks from now.
You'll be seeing that in the future, yeah.
Right. So, thank you very much. Have a great night.
Sláinte.